Let's go ahead and get ourselves started. I can't believe it's actually like session 7, so we're at the 4th week. Like, quarters go by really, really quickly. And I'm not sure like what your sense of it is right now, but we're coming up. It's not quite halfway. We're definitely a third of the way through all this, and that's really kind of hard to believe because it seems like we just sort of started yesterday. But you're picking up skills incredibly quickly. You can definitely see in your assignments you're turning in. You're picking up this stuff very, very nicely. Doing a fantastic job with it. And from here on out, it's just kind of continuing to build up those skills a little bit at a time, show you new tricks about how to kind of use it a little bit better. You're just doing a fantastic job. So I hope you're enjoying it from your side in terms of sort of realizing the incredible power of what you've been able to accomplish so far in just a very short time. Okay. In terms of what we want to do today, we have an action-packed agenda. We're going to talk about assignment 2, which we're handing out. You're going to have all week to work on. We're going to take a look specifically at how you start modeling things in a multi-story way. So things move from simple single-story structures up to multi-story. Some of the different tricks you have to sort of play to go ahead and get everything to work out very nicely with an integrated building model. So we'll take a look largely at that, thinking about what we have to do with walls, how floors interact with the walls, and think about a very special type of object called a building pad, which is, you can almost think about it as just something that clears the earth. So if you have a sloping site and you want to sort of nestle a building into the site, or you just want to sort of level out uneven terrain, a building pad is what we'll use. It's very closely related to a floor, but it has a couple special properties. Then we'll actually touch on stairs. Stairs are actually some of the most interesting things about trying to do multi-story buildings. Stairs are actually a pretty complicated architectural topic. It's pretty easy to do the modeling, but understanding really what a good stair design is and how all the constraints work together, there's a fair amount of stuff in there. So we'll take a look at that because stairs can make a really big difference as you start thinking about your design for a building. We're also going to hopefully get to, we'll see if we make it tonight. If not, we'll do it the first thing next time. Talk about an interesting concept called design options, which you're going to get an opportunity to use as part of the assignment. Design options are really based on the notion of, if you can sort of think about parallel universes, okay, where we often have the primary universe, but every once in a while we can turn on options for things that are sort of appearing at other dimensions. And what it allows us to do is actually entertain several different design features. We can have sort of a primary design that we're proposing, but at the same time also say, well, what if I did think about a different canopy or a different arrangement for the rooms or a different furniture layout? In a single model, you can maintain both those things. The primary as well as some different options for your clients to consider. And it's got a really cool feature. It works very, very, very nicely, and we'll hopefully get to that today. If not, we'll definitely talk about that on Thursday. Okay, so let us go ahead and dive on in. And probably the best thing to do is just talk to you about assignment 2 and what we have in mind there. Okay, so if you go on out to coursework under session 7, you'll actually find assignment 2, a write-up for it out there, as well as some starting point files. And again, these starting point files are just things to get you going with wall types, and there's even a little bit of terrain in the model in this starting point. If you start without the starting point file, that's okay. We can copy things over from it. But if you can use this, it will make your life a little bit easier. There's 2 versions. I have a zipped version and a just .rbt version. You can probably just download the .rbt version. This one's zipped. I just always zip things. I thought that made things safer in terms of transmitting over the internet. But some people had some trouble with that last time. Like my Mac in particular, it got confused about whether it was zipped or not zipped. And there's even an answer out there in Piazza about how you have to sort of fix that. So you might just try downloading the RBT. See if that works for you. Not go together. But let's take a look at the assignment and see what we have in mind. Here's the story. Okay, so you get all week to work on this. It's going to be due next Tuesday. Again, similar things about just the assignment number, the number of units. Go through and put that together. So we're going to go ahead and actually start increasing our BIM modeling by doing a multi-story building. And let's give you a context to go ahead and start trying to do some multi-story design. We're going to sort of ratchet it up a little bit and have you, as opposed to designing that little field research station, actually start thinking about a small house. And the house I have in mind, it's not kind of your big 4-bedroom, 3-bath, you're going to live in it every day with a full kitchen. This is more kind of a vacation house. So picture, you're packing up for the weekend with a bunch of your friends, you're going up to Tahoe, there's that cabin that you're going to stay in, okay? And within that, it's probably going to largely be based around just kind of some sort of meeting space, some lounge, some living room. You're probably going to spend a lot of your time in that space. Okay, so really, as you think about your design, just really making that a really good architectural experience. That's what we really want you to focus on here. Kind of think about something that's going to really be creative, really support the way you would interact in a space like this. Kind of really love that space. And, the total size of the house could be anywhere from like 1,800 to 2,200 square feet. That's a pretty broad range. It's actually bigger than a lot of little ranch houses that exist there. But don't be thinking about the 6-bedroom, 5-bath, 3-car garage. It's not that. This is sort of a place where you're going to spend a couple days. There'll probably be some sort of food preparation area. But again, it's probably not that big gourmet kitchen that you see in the magazines. It's just a place where you can think about what you want. You want to bring some groceries and cereal and stuff like that. And you might be bringing in food or pizza. You want some food preparation, but it's not like a huge kitchen. It's just something. And in a lot of modern designs, that might actually be very nicely linked into the meeting space. So that as opposed to having some people stashed away in the back room doing the cooking, kind of more of a integrated experience where you're cooking, you're eating, you're entertaining, it's all kind of working together in a very informal way. But again, you think about what you think is going to be a good design for this. You should have a couple of sleeping spaces. I kind of picture this place having, something like, 2 bedrooms. Maybe 12 by 12, again, nothing large, but one could have like a queen size bed or a double bed. Maybe the other one would have a couple of twin beds or a bunk or something like that. But as you think about the space, if you had a lot of friends coming with you, you might also want to have spaces that convert into sleeping spaces. So in the main living area, just things that can sort of swing if they need to go ahead and provide a little more space for people just to sack out. Okay. So you sort of have a vision. Can you sort of picture this place? Okay. Start with just a picture in your mind of what this might look like, because that'll really help you before you get into the modeling. Okay, a couple of bathrooms. Toilet, vanity, I'm brushing my teeth, shower. You don't need the big glamour spa tub with jacuzzi jets. In fact, you probably want to put like a hot tub out on the deck or something like that. So, just something serviceable. A room that I would love to have in this is something, I'll call it like a study or a quiet retreat sort of room. So the idea is, as much as I love to hang with all my friends, like, with the video games and the music and the noise and all that, every once in a while you kind of like to get away and take that phone call or get your assignment completed that's due on Monday or whatever it is you got to do. So it's kind of nice to have a little space where you don't have to be in the thick of things all the time. So think about what that might look like. It could be a room that adjoins the main room and maybe have some doors that close. It could be an alcove. It could be a more separate space, but think about something, and maybe even this room could have a convertible sofa or a pull-down bed or something like that, so you can use it as a bedroom if you need to. So something, not the main space. Some storage. We need someplace to keep our skis and our tubes and things like that. Okay? That doesn't necessarily have to be accessible from the inside. That can be accessible from the outside or attached to a garage or something. In some places, store things. Some sort of parking. Could be a garage, might just be a carport or something that's covered to keep the snow off, like that. And one thing that's kind of unique about what we're going to ask you to do is we're thinking about this hillside site. Hillsides pose their own kind of special opportunities and challenges all at the same time. Hillsides are really kind of nice. Okay, you get these fantastic views looking down from the deck to the big bay or the big lake beyond. It'd be really, really nice to be up on those hills. Kind of create some special challenges for those, and we'll talk about those in just a second. Okay, now your clients here, they've given you some, inspiration photos of things they like. And of course they're giving you falling water, they're giving you a Mies van der Rohe house over here. It's called a curtain house, a very nice, cool, open one with a heat fan. But what I want you to take from these is not necessarily that you're going to create these houses. There's something about the design aesthetic you should sort of get from this. If people are saying these are the kinds of houses I like, you might say, well, they kind of like glass and openness to nature. They seem to be kind of modern about the whole thing. They seem to like sort of a modern aesthetic. The people who brought me these pictures, I probably wouldn't come back with a log cabin in the woods. Okay, I'd come back with something that It's a little more modern, a little more edgy. So these things really just inspiration. That's all they really are. Just kind of there to give you an idea of what they say they like. And that's often a really common way that clients come to you. I ask them to often just bring me magazine photos of things they like. Don't even worry about why you like it. They don't have to resolve in some really rational way. Just show me what you like, and I'll use my design eye to try and figure out what I see in common in all these different things. So that's a real common way to get started. Now, in terms of the construction, let's talk about how you might do this. Because hillsides have their own little kind of funky special challenge to them. And what I'm going to do is I'm going to just sort of draw like some sort of hillside, okay, and in section. And somewhere down in here, there's some big old lake. Okay, so in thinking about how you could use the hillside, there's a number of different ways you might approach this. Some people will go through and they'll build a house on the hillside where they really just elevate the house. So they put a house up here, it's kind of connected to the ground. This is kind of in section. Okay. But rather than kind of really getting into the ground at all, they'll go through and put just supports. It'll be on stilts. It'll be on some sort of big piers that kind of come on down and support it. But basically the house is floating above the ground. Okay, and we can go ahead and address the lake a little better. We could have some nice sort of kind of big balcony that's cantilevering out there. It doesn't have to be a little flat house like this. It could be 2 stories. Might have some nice sort of roof that's getting the views of the lake, something like that. So a lot of people will build things like this, kind of just up on stilts. And that's one way to go. You're welcome to do that if you want to try and do that. The other way that people sometimes address the hill is they kind of carve into the hill a little bit. And I think that's actually probably a more common way of doing it. And what I would suggest, if you're thinking about something like that, is, what we'll often do is we'll sort of build into the hill. Get rid of that one. And actually carve some space into the hill. And what will happen is you'll often have a lower level which is partially underground. Like I'm from the Midwest, we call it a walkout basement, where you're sort of in the hill on one side and you're exposed on the other. But you might have sort of a basement level that opens out on the other side. This could have like some sort of raised terrace in there. Maybe the upper floor has a balcony. Sort of build the same sort of house up in here. But it's really this issue, are you going to be above? Are you going to nestle in? You could go ahead and put the entire lower floor all the way in the ground. It's your decision just really to decide, how much you want to use the hill. Okay? So, you can go either way of those, and just think about that in terms of your design features. It's really whatever you want to do. Okay? So, as you think about this hillside side, you could nestle in. Okay? In terms of how we're going to build this, we're probably going to put some sort of concrete slab in. In this case, I wouldn't do a concrete slab. This would all just be wood, kind of hanging around up here above everything. In this case, I'd probably have some sort of concrete slab down in here, maybe some fill underneath it. The lower level walls, let's think about them, because this is where it gets interesting to build things on a hillside. In this scenario, these walls can all be wood frame, no problem. Well, we have to insulate under the house, but it's all kind of hanging out there. It's just like building a house on grade at some levels. If we nestle down into the ground, what ends up happening is we actually want to think about the wall that's underground a little bit differently. Because if we're above grade, we can build things out of wood, like frame construction, that works just fine. But if we get below the grade, a couple things happen. The earth actually has all these forces that are pressing on it. So we typically don't do those out of wood. We actually build them out of concrete, and we make a retaining wall to hold the earth back. So what will happen in this scenario is I'll have my wood frame wall up here, but down below, I'll have some sort of concrete wall that's going to hold the earth back. The other thing that the concrete wall is really good for is we can waterproof that in such a way it'll hold all the water out. It won't rot when it's up against the moist earth. So whenever you have something which is partially underground, you have to sort of think about that interface between where does the concrete stop, where does the wood start, and bring it all together. Okay. And I'll spend some time looking at that kind of scenario today. So again, if you're thinking about nestling, we'll do a lot of that today. If you want to build the house floating up above like a big bridge, that's okay too. The only thing I'd say is it'd be nice to go ahead and put some insulation or something like that underneath the floor, just to kind of make sure that it's not breezy down there. Okay. Actually, it's not always left open this way. Have you seen these houses where they put like plywood siding all the way down and it's all over the side? It's like skin, but there's nothing under there. It's like just a big open kind of space where rats live and things like that. So, I don't know, a lot of ways to handle that. Up above grade, we'll probably have some sort of 2x6 construction, very much like last time. The roof, let's think about that. Now, in our little research houses or research centers, you know, we only got so wide. We got 10 or 12 feet wide, something like that. We could do that with single rafters. As we start thinking about this house, oh, this may get bigger. You know, this may get to be 25, 30 feet, something like that. Whatever, you're going to come up with some dimension for what you want it to be. And as we think about that, what's going to happen is we're going to have larger rafters, okay, because we're going to span greater distances. But you'll also probably end up having some intermediate walls that actually help support the roof. So you could have some walls inside the house where, oh, like there's some sort of bedroom wall that comes up and it'll be built up to the roof and break that span. So, you know, although the span can be very large, the individual spans between the walls will still stay probably within something that a 2x10 or a 2x12 can handle. Okay. If you want it to be completely open, we'll actually start thinking about, you know, you maybe put a beam in there. Something to support the roof to kind of just break up that span. And, you know, as we're looking at your individual models, we'll go ahead and think about what the structural support system may look like. Now, for this assignment, you don't have to really design the structure, but if you really have a big open span, be thinking ahead that you might want a beam on the ceiling, okay? Because, you know, for the next assignment, we're going to start getting into that where we're actually modeling the structure and thinking that. But just sort of think ahead. If it's looking like over like, you know, 15 or 16 feet of clear space, there's probably some sort of beam or a wall that needs to be there to support things. Unless we're using steel, you know, but that's a trade-off. Okay, so how's the you know, just the program feel? Does the program sort of make sense to you? You sort of get the idea of what we have in mind, what you're trying to design for? Okay. Let's talk about how to get started. Okay, we have this getting started file. That's going to be okay. We'll actually open that and work with that today. Let's think about what different people are doing. So, if you are doing this all for 2 units and just want the basic experience, go through and make a building model that has walls, doors, windows, floors, roofs, and stairs. Okay, so just the basic shell of the building. We'll go through and create that. You'll put some views together like you did last time. You know, these probably make sense to plot at quarter scale. But this time we'll sort of ratchet it up a little bit. Let's get the dimensions, the labels, the tags. Just be a little more careful about fully documenting things so that it really looks, you know, pretty neat and clean. So let's go through and work on annotations. We'll have a floor plan, we'll have a roof plan, some exterior elevations. Some sections might be really good. The sections are really good. When you have like a big, funny vertical relationship between floors and a roof, a section's a really good way of illustrating what you have in mind that you can't see at a floor plan. So that's what we're going for the building sections. A room schedule. So far, you know, most of these are actually pretty good. Once you've created the model, it's just kind of cutting those cameras and adjusting the camera views to kind of show those, maybe add some annotations. In addition, include a couple 3D views and maybe a camera view at the ground level. And this, I know you know how to do because I've seen an awful lot of that in Assignment 1. As soon as you figure out how to put a camera in the model, 3D views were flying everywhere. So go ahead and do some of those. And in particular, a really nice one is, it really is like, if you're walking up to the building, it's kind of a ground level camera from the outside, because that's really how most people are going to perceive it. You know, all these views from a helicopter kind of hovering around the house are really good to explain it architecturally, you know, high level, but people are really going to see it like walking up to the house or standing downhill. So that's why I like those. Just kind of really, let's see what your clients are going to see. And you're going to put them on a sheet. Okay, so first level, 2 units, just build the basic shell of the house, put a stairway in, and document it. If, on the other hand, you're going for 3 units and a little further, here's what you want to do. You want to keep on going a little further. You want to start putting in the infill objects. That's the furniture, the plumbing fixtures, just the stuff that sort of fills out and explains what's happening inside the shell of the house. Okay, so really you spend a lot more time just digging into components and putting them in, just kind of flesh out the design a little bit. So furniture, cabinetry. Now, let me warn you about cabinetry. you could spend hours and hours doing a very detailed kitchen layout. And no one really wants you to do that. It's probably enough just to go ahead and say, there will be a big block of countertop here, but really, is it going to be 21 inches of drawer followed by 18 inches of cabinet and an appliance garage and a trash compactor? You don't need to do the detail level of that, but at least get it laid out to help us understand, is it a U-shaped kitchen? Is it a galley kitchen? Just really, is there a countertop that people are sitting at? We'll show you where to find some big components that will just let you do it in a gross way to kind of really give you a high-level sense of really how it all lays out. Okay, after you go through and put all those things in there, just a couple more views. So go through and create a plan view, highlighting the furniture elements. Again, that's kind of like what we did last time, where you duplicate the plan view and use the visibility graphics to highlight those things. A plan view highlighting the plumbing elements. So again, it's visibility graphics. The door and the window schedule, which pretty much fall out pretty easily. So that's in 3 minutes. So just go further in terms of the detailed model. If you're in for the whole banana and you're going for all 4 units, here's what you do. So your client would ask you to go through and kind of come up with just an option. Everyone likes choice. Even if they don't really have much choice, people like to feel they have choice. So here's what you're going to do. You're going to come up with some alternate arrangement for some aspect. Okay, now, don't be thinking about coming up with an entirely new design. You're not designing another wing for the house. You're not doing something major. Okay? Think about some small change, because really the point here is just that you're going to illustrate some change. Here's the baseline, and here's an alternate way of looking at that. So what could you consider? You could think about, the interior walls in the bedroom area. Here's an alternate arrangement of the walls and doors. Okay? You can think about, for that exterior deck you're putting on there, here's the extended version of the deck. You can think about, instead of a carport, I'm going to put a full garage in, something like that. Or even in the living room, here's furniture layout A, where we're all kind of huddled around the fireplace. Here's furniture layout B, where it's all built around the LCD flat panel and playing games. But kind of keep it at that level. You don't have to go through and do a whole nother design, because really what you're going to do here is, for your first design option, you've already done that. That's what you did for part 1 and 2 over here. You already did your first design. That's good. That's your baseline. So for the second one, we're just going to choose some aspect of that model that you're going to change. Again, it doesn't have to be great architectural design. You just want to sort of illustrate that you can use this ability to turn things on and off and get that other dimension in there. And then we'll create some views that illustrate that. Okay, so again, even here, you don't have to sort of put all the floor plans and all the elevations together. Usually, a small section of the floor plan which just focuses on the area you change, maybe a camera view that shows what it looks like to be in that different layout. That's probably enough. Okay, so that's probably the fuzziest part of this all. We'll go ahead and talk about this definitely more on Thursday when we're together. Okay, so any questions at a high level? Does it sound okay? Okay, hopefully you'll have some fun. Have some fun with it. Don't just hopefully have some fun with it. Think about what you have in mind, kind of picture it in your mind's eye, sketch it up a little bit in terms of thinking about it, and just have fun with the modeling, because really, you can't go wrong with this one. It's just sort of you understand what kind of a cool space would be. The more imaginative, the more creative, if it's way out, all the better. That's okay. You're not necessarily doing fine architectural design here. I'd rather see your creative side. So go ahead and just you want to propose things that are a little bit odd, go for it. That's okay. Okay. So that is the assignment. Ready for that one? Beauty. Okay. Then let us go ahead and talk about how you can approach this and really some of the specific skills and tools. It's weird if you merge those two. That'll actually help you with those. So what we're going to do is actually turn our attention to the whole issue of multi-story buildings. And as we look at multi-story buildings, the first thing I want to talk about is walls, and walls that are on multiple different levels and how we can kind of control and work with that. So I got some tricks for you that I think will hopefully make your life a lot easier. So if you can, head on out to coursework and pull down either of these starting point files. I just go for that one if you can, the Revit file. I'll go ahead and open it up on my machine, and we'll just take a look at this and sort of see what it's like. my properties palette. Let me see what I have in my project browser. Pop that back in there. Let's take a look at what's going on here. So this is just some context for us to work in. Let me tell you about the starting point file and what's in here. You'll see the floor levels are labeled a little bit differently. I have lower level and upper level. Those are really just determined by the floor levels that we set up in the elevations. So if you want to check them out, just go to like, oh, the south elevation, or I'll go to the west elevation. I think you can kind of see it better there. You'll see that I have the lower level at 0, I have the upper level at 10, the roof at 20. And again, it could be something different. That's just what I'm going to start with, is 10 feet floor to floor. You'll see I have this big thing kind of hanging around down there that looks like a crossed hatch pattern. And that's actually the earth. That's the hillside. Now, in terms of that hillside, there's nothing special about where I put that hillside. If you want a steeper hill, go for it. If you want a flatter hill, we can go ahead and change it that way too. Or you can move it up or down. It really is just a big old object. So we can grab that hill. It's really just a big old object, and just either move it up or down. It just moves. And eventually we'll show you a way that you can import hillsides. We can actually go to Google Earth, pull down real satellite data about a specific hillside or a specific mountain. If you want to do that, we can kind of do a special little kind of a tutorial on that. But you can use the default hillside, or if you have some fantastic hillside you want to model, we can show you how to get that in from Google Earth. It's really, it's possible to pull in data and actually make Google contour maps. So you can kind of create your own hill. But that's the hillside, and these are some levels relative to the hillside. Okay. So we got some floor plan levels, lower level and upper level. Let me go to the lower level, and we'll actually just go ahead and get started. So the idea is, I want to go through and put some walls in. I'm going to start by putting the walls down. I'm going to put them on the lower level first. So I'll go pop it on over to the Architecture tab. I'll choose the Wall tool. Choose some wall types. I can make them out of concrete or out of the wood siding. Ultimately, I'm going to show you how you switch between those two things. Yes?
How do we know where north is there?
This is a very good question. Okay. By default, this is just called Project North. This is called Project South. Okay, you're thinking, okay, that sort of works. Yeah. It's just really a convention, though, for naming things. The notion of where the true north is really adjustable. Okay, let me tell you how that works.
Well, the thing is that we saw the view, the inclination of the site on the west side.
Yes.
Is that like the arrow on the left? Is that
it's Project West.
Okay.
Yeah, it really just means the left side. Let me answer your question. It's a really good question because it'll actually kind of affect sun and shadows and things like that. Okay. Every view in every project has this notion of there's something in here whether it is showing the Project North or the true north. Okay. Project North always puts like that end of the project is at the top, which orients it like a clock. Let's talk about how you change that. Okay. So for example, if that wasn't truly north, if that was actually west, here's how you go through and do that. Okay. We can go through, let me just duplicate this lower level view. And we don't have to, I could change it in there, but I like to do it by duplicating it, and I'll rename that. I'm just going to call this lower level true north. Say okay. Now, the only difference between lower level and lower level true north is going to be this setting right in here. The orientation is not going to show Project North. Let's set it so it shows true north. Somehow my tongue's not working today. And we'll say apply. And you'll say that's amazingly uninteresting because nothing seems to have happened. There's nothing to happen. It's true north and Project North are still aligned right now. But let's make it interesting. Okay. On my true north view, let's rotate the project around so that it actually is facing a different direction. And just so you can sort of see something happen here, I'm just going to put some walls down, just so you sort of get a sense. Oh, I'm going to do these wood siding walls. I'm just going to make a little shape for myself. It's going to go height from lower level to upper level. That's fine. I'm going to be a little careful about this. This notion of wall centerline. I keep on saying that I love the core face exterior, the way I place walls. And today you'll actually see why. It'll sort of become important to us today. So if you can change it to core face exterior, do that. And let's just go through and create some basic shape for ourselves. So I'm going to go ahead, pull down, make a nice little L shape to something or other. Okay, so at this point, this is still the north side of the house, the west side. It's sort of, project and true are matching each other. Okay, where you change that, if you'd like to sort of introduce a little orientation, is we actually do that under the Manage tab. And you'll find something under here. There's this whole project location. And I always have to remember which of these different choices it is. You come under here under project location. That's position. That's the geographic location of the project. Actually, let's do that. That's kind of a good one too. If we want accurate sun and shadows, we should actually give it a specific location on the Earth, like a latitude and longitude. And here's how you do that. We can go through and pull some project address. I have a default city list. So I can choose some predefined cities. So we can find, cities all over the world. I wonder if Lake Tahoe's in there. I doubt it is. Lake Charles. No win. Okay, let's go to the Internet Mapping Service. Okay. Let's search for an address, like South Lake Tahoe or something like that. Okay. This is going to go out and use the Google Mapping Service. Okay, there's South Lake Tahoe. It's going to report a weather station for us. That'll be useful when we start doing some energy analysis. The other good thing, though, is it's going to pick up the latitude and the longitude. And it actually seems, surprising, but it makes a huge difference just how far north you are in terms of just how the sun and shadows react. It's more impactful than you think. I actually spent a couple of years in Singapore where the sun, we're at like 1 degree latitude or something like that. The sun's pretty much over your head, like, all year round. You don't have shadows. It's just this really, really weird thing. The sun's up, and it disappears all of a sudden. There's no afternoon. It's a very strange thing. We'll go to South Lake Tahoe, say okay. So what are we doing? We're ultimately choosing a latitude and longitude. Yeah, we'll leave it at that for now. We've chosen a weather file. We'll say okay. The other thing I need to do in here, though, is, again, under the Manage tab, we'll now have the choice of relocating the project or rotating the true north. So let's think about this. Okay. Rotating the true north lets us do this. Currently, this project, which is laying out here, and this is considered the true north right now. Okay, it matches the project north. If I wanted to switch it, if, for example, I wanted that to be true north, what I would do is rotate the whole thing 90 degrees. I wanted like that to be true north up in here, I'd rotate it 45 degrees. But let's do this. Let's go through and I'll say rotate. Oops, it's the last choice down here. Position, rotate true north. I got this little arc for swinging some sort of rotation. I can just click anywhere and just pull an angle. So like 90 degrees, we'll shift it over. Okay, so now this is actually the north side. Even though that's project east, that's the north side of the house. The most common situation we actually get into is something like this. Almost all projects, very few things line up truly to the north. There'll be something like that. And so it's just a convention because we don't like to draw at 45 degrees that we choose a side that we're going to call the project north, even though it's not truly north. But from this point, the sun and shadows are accurate. So for example, let me do this. Zoom on out. I can actually turn on something called the sun path. This is like a little solar heliodon. That's showing the compass where the true north is right now. So Now I can go through and do something like, oh, turn on the shadows. See if I can turn on the shadows. Where am I? Am I in the middle of the day? Oh, that's interesting. You're not showing in the floor plan view. Let me show it in the 3D view. So here I am. Let me again turn on the sun path for you. Okay. You can sort of see there's the sun in the sky. Let me turn on the shadows. So what's happening is in the morning when the sun is way down in the sky, that's the east side of the house is getting the sun here. The shadows are being cast that way as we move through the day. Let me move it up to the afternoon. We'll get the sun on that side and the shadows will be casting that way. So if you set the project location and you set the right orientation, you get accurate shadows, accurate renderings in terms of how things look at different side of the day. And that can be important to you because, we don't necessarily want to have all these windows facing due west. It might be incredibly hot in that room when you're baking in the afternoon sun. You might need to sort of put in some sort of shading or something like that. So it's a long-winded answer to like how you change the project orientation. But although we changed it here on the true north view, okay, watch this. If I go back to lower level, it still looks the old way because that's showing the project north. So usually what I'll do is on one view that I only use for setting the rotation, I'll set it to true north, I'll change it, okay, and leave that alone. Okay, but from here on out the shadows will cast right. Okay, so let's go ahead and take a look at this building. I'm going to go through and ratchet up the degree of detail a little bit. And I'm going to turn on something called thin line mode. Looks like I'm already turned on right now. And the reason I'm doing that is I'd really like to be able to see, this whole notion of just how the walls are constructed, where the interior surface, where the exterior surface is, that's the exterior siding, that's the face of the core, that's the interior core over there. Okay. Let's go ahead and add in there some interior walls too. So I'll go to architecture, choose some walls. I'll start dividing this up. I'll just say, let's give myself some interior walls. Again, I'll choose a height. I'm going to go from lower level to upper level. For the interior walls, it's not so critical about whether it's the inner or outer face, because we don't really sort of shift them in the same way. So I'll go through and put in some walls in here. I'll kind of separate that out. Maybe put another one down here. Maybe divide it up like it's going to be some bedrooms or something like that. We put a wall in over here. And this is not great architectural design, but it's just sort of illustrating how the walls go in. Let's take a look at this joint for just a second. That's a joint that bothers people. Someone asked about this on the last assignment. And here's the deal. We got these 2x6 walls on the outside. I got these 2x4 walls on the inside. And how is that actually going to resolve itself? What happens is, if we frame this up, we rarely do this. This is kind of weird looking. When you go on in, the sheetrock bumps out a little bit. You see those couple of inches difference. We rarely lay it out this way. How that'll typically work is we'll go through and set that interior wall so that the sheetrock will look the same. In that case, what we would do is move this line right here over so that it lines up with the face of the studs in there. And let me show you what I mean. If we choose that wall, for example, we can use this tool over here called the Align tool, AL for Align. And let me show you what it does. It's a really handy tool. What it does is you can choose some sort of line. In this case, I'm going to choose that line right here, the inside face of that. Okay. You pick a line, which is the location you want to align things to, and you grab something and bring it on over. So it's always here, then pull you to me. It's always pick it and then pull towards it. So what I have in mind here is I'm going to come over here, see if I can get that wall. I might have to tab a couple times. Try that again. Align. There we go. That's the outer face. There's the inner face there. That was so subtle you probably didn't even see it. Let me bring it up closer. I'm going to get close. That's the, can you see right now that's actually the face of the wall? I'm going to grab the core of the wall. Actually, this doesn't really matter since it's the same surface. I could really use either one of them to align with. You come back. There's the core. And what I'm going to do then is pull the same place here. It'll bring them together. So I'm going to do that again. And that's a little weird. Okay, so what I'll do is I'll use the align tool. I'm going to pick a wall face, like the face of the core. Then I'm going to pull on some other face. It'll bring it over. And if you brought it on over and you want to make sure they stay together, you just hit the lock tool, and it'll lock them together. Okay, so some people wonder about how you get from 2x4 to 2x6 walls. That's it. We almost always line them up so the face will look good, so that the sheetrock will look good on the inside. Okay. So I've been doing my design work. I got this fantastic first floor design here. Sort of. But we can go ahead and start using this as the basis for thinking about the second floor. So I'm on lower level. I need to go on up to that upper level. And what I'm going to do is come on up to that upper level. And you'll see there is the lower floor. It's kind of ghosted in there. You can sort of see it there. I can start drawing upper level walls. Now, when you draw upper level walls, what will happen is, come on in here. You'd really like to get them lined up with those lower level walls. Okay. If I'm going to line these to the lower level walls, I don't really see the interior surface, so I might have to go through and, well, I'm going to mess around. I could sort of align them based on the outer or the inner surface. But let me kind of give you a better way to do this. I could draw them and just try to align them all and get everything perfect. But every once in a while, if you're off by 1/8 of an inch or 1/4 of an inch, it does make a difference. Things just don't hold together as well as you want them to. So let me suggest this as an alternative. Here's the deal. The cool thing about almost all buildings we build is actually the outer surfaces of the walls on the first floor and the second floor often line up. Or at least a lot of them do. Even if they don't all, a lot of them will line up. So if I, for example, go back to that 3D view, let me turn off all that shadow stuff. Turn that sun path off. Okay. If I go back to that view and I grab all these walls, I actually can probably just copy and paste it up to the second level. Okay. And that'll just save me some time. It'll actually get lined up very, very nicely. So as opposed to redrawing all that work, it's often simpler with building modeling to go through and copy things to the level and then just start thinking about the differences. Just push walls out of the way that don't need to line up. So I'll show you what I mean. I can grab all these walls. I can do it in the floor plan view or in the 3D view. Doesn't really matter. Either way will work. I'm going to do it in the floor plan view. Maybe that'll be easier. I'm going to grab all these walls, and I'll do that just by dragging all the way around them. They're all selected. Okay. Once they are selected, you have the ability to copy them to the clipboard. So very much like it's in Microsoft Word or anything else. Just copy things to the clipboard and paste it wherever you want it. We'll say, hey, let's copy it to the clipboard, which is over here in the Modify section. Clipboard. Copy it to the clipboard. Okay. You are ready to go. So what you can do then is move to wherever you want to put it, like the upper level. And you can say that you'd like to paste it. And it kind of comes out. You can sort of see where it was originally. I can move it around now and paste it where I want. If I'm really good, I can actually get it to land right on that corner. Okay. But I'm going to show you even a better way. Because even with this, sometimes I'm off by a few inches. I just don't quite get it right. So let me show you another way. Okay. You copied it. You got it on the clipboard. It's looking good over there. You'd like to paste it out. Turns out paste has some really good options for you, including paste to specific levels, paste to this level, paste to the same place. There's all these things where it'll paste with some precision so that you don't have to worry about being just a little bit off. And where that comes in handy is, for example, I got all these walls off the lower level. If I say I want to paste it aligned to the upper level, it'll copy and make a second version that's right up on the upper level, precisely lined up. The X and Y will be exactly perfect, just the Z is going to change. So I'll say, let's align those to the selected levels, put it on that upper level, say OK. And if I go back to 3D, you see I got two stories worth. Now, that's not too bad in terms of what's going on around here. still, after you pasted these, you can make changes. Once you pasted them, at that point, you're free to go ahead and just dip however you want to. So you don't really want the same size space down below. Oh, you don't. Maybe on this end over here, I'm going to push that in. I'm going to put some sort of offset, put a deck out there, whatever it is I sort of have in mind. You can go ahead and start pushing around. Just use the copy and paste as a way to kind of get them up there in the first place. Okay, so copying and pasting things to the second floor. How's that sort of feel? Okay? Beautiful. Okay, let's go ahead and kind of keep it going. As we go working with the walls and we copy and paste them up to the second floor, things are looking pretty good. They kind of switch around here, to the back side. Okay. And I got a little bit of a problem here. Not too bad a problem. Got a little bit of a problem. Can you see that the house actually sort of buries down into the ground just a little bit? I'm going to make it even worse by moving up the ground a little bit. Okay, so this issue of these wooden walls being down inside the dirt, that's going to cause problems for me later. So I need to change that. What I'd like to actually do is have the walls which are buried down in the earth change to concrete instead. So, no worries, we know how to do that. We can choose a wall. We can go through, actually let me do this. I'm going to cut a section view so you can kind of see it all in great detail. So I got my beautiful floor plan here. I'm going to go to the View tab and grab the sectioning tool, just so I can cut a nice line right through here and you can see exactly what I'm up to. Okay, so this is a section. In terms of what's going on with the section marker, these are just the cross boundaries. This is how far I'm looking out. This is kind of how far I'm cropping to the left and right. It's pointing this way. I can flip it over the other way if I want to. You'll see that because I created a section, it actually shows up in the sections portion of the project browser. I can take a look at that. Let me ratchet this up in terms of the degree of coarseness so that when I zoom on in there, you can really see what I'm after. So here's my lower wall, here's my upper wall. They actually kind of break right there. And this is the part I'm worried about. Right down there, that wood siding is kind of under the ground right now. So I'd like to go through and change that wall. And what I can do is just choose that wall and go through and change its type. But this is where all of a sudden the issue of where is your location line becomes important. Because how the new wall aligns itself vertically to where the old wall was is really determined by that location line. So, because the existing wall was placed, or the location line is currently at core face exterior, if I put a new wall in, the exterior of the core of the new wall is going to align to where the exterior of the core of the old wall was. Which sounds like an awful thing to say, but it looks something like this. I'm going to choose that. I'm going to replace it with a concrete wall. Okay. And what happened is it actually aligns itself really nicely here. So the face of the concrete out here matches up with the face of the studs. And that's really the behavior you do want. Okay, let me zoom on out a little bit. Let's kind of show you the alternative. Because, again, don't worry, this happens to us all as we're working. If you placed your walls and you didn't pay attention to that at first and you got them down there by, for example, wall center lines, not to worry. You're going to know this is your case because when you choose the new type of wall, this will happen to you. It'll center on both sides and you'll actually get the concrete and the wood sort of centered with each other. Have that little lip on the outside. It's going to catch water, create sort of a detail problem for you in terms of moisture proofing that. So we don't want that. If that does happen, not to worry. Just go ahead and undo. And the trick is just go ahead and change it to the core face exterior before changing that. Core face exterior, now I can change it to concrete. Okay. Not looking too bad. We can do that with some of the other walls too. For example, this one over here, it's partially under the earth. I'd like to go through and also go through and put in some concrete over here. Okay, so we can create more of a stacked wall system where we have something up here which is wood, something down here which is concrete. We kind of mix them up. That's kind of okay. As long as we stay aligned the way it's sort of constructed, we're going to be fine. Let me give you one more variation on the theme, and that is this. Okay. Often when we do something like this, we could have the concrete going the entire level up, but sometimes you don't want to do that. Sometimes you actually just like to have the concrete going just high enough to stay above the earth, and just have some mixture of the concrete and the wood. And we can do that too. So a very common thing in situations like this is people will have a foundation which, it kind of stair steps. It'll come out, it'll drop down, it'll stair step down, we'll sort of follow the contour. And it's really easy to go through and model that. I'm just going to show you a trick for doing that. Again, you could go ahead and do it this way. Some people would just build it this way, and the windows down here would be through a concrete wall, which is okay. It's not optimal. It's probably easier if you go through and mix it up with some wood versus concrete. But think about varying that. So here's what you got to do. What I'm really looking to have happen is, okay, I got my foundation over here. I got some nice concrete wall over here, and here's what I would really like to have happen. I'd like to take that wall and actually break it up, sort of split it so that the upper part is wood. Maybe stair step it down, maybe stair step it down again. So break it into two different pieces. So the upper part is wood, the lower part's concrete. Okay, so you get where I'm going with this? So I want wood up here, I want concrete down below. Now, a very common thing when you're building modeling is if you have a single thing and you want to break it in two, some things split really nicely. Walls aren't one of them. They don't split well. They don't split in a very detailed way. I can kind of just split it vertically. That one worked pretty easily. But every once in a while I want to split something like that. And here's the easiest way to do it. It's actually to go through and take that thing, duplicate it, and place it right back on top of itself. So you actually have two of them in exactly the same place. Okay. And after we have those two in the same place, go through and adjust one to have that stair step, okay, and then go back and adjust the other one so it matches the stair step precisely. So really break it in half and go through and introduce the same stair step on both sides. That sounds really weird, but it actually is one of the easiest ways to go through and do this. And probably easiest to kind of walk you through it and show you what I mean. So, what I want to do is take that wall and do this to it. Okay, so here's how we're going to do it. We're going to grab that wall and we're going to copy it just like we did the other thing. So we're going to just grab that one wall. I can copy it. And I can come back over here to paste and say, let's just paste it to exactly the same place, which is going to sound strange, but it's going to work for us because I'm going to take one and do one thing to it and take the other one and do the other thing to it. Now, it's even going to complain at us because it knows that, this whole idea of putting two walls in exactly the same place, that's not exactly sensible. That may get you in trouble later. Okay, so it's going to warn us that something's a little odd about what you're doing. No worries. I understand what I'm up to. Okay, so I want to now take a wall and just introduce that stair-step shape to it. Okay? Now, we learned a little about attaching before. We even spent a little time talking about this notion of editing a wall's profile. Okay, and that's what we're going to use here. We're going to give it a custom shape. It's not just going to attach to another something. We're going to go through and give it a very specific custom sketch. And how I can do that is, I actually got two walls here. It's hard to see, but I actually got two of them right on top of each other. I'm just going to choose one of them. Okay, it's hard to even see that I've chosen one because they're right on top of each other. I can tell because it's blue. A little bit of indication that there actually is one of them selected right now. And when I have that selected, I have this option of attaching the top and bottom, but I also have this one called editing the profile. So let's choose that. So this is going to be editing one of them. So this is the boundary of the wall right now. You can sort of see where it is relative to the earth. What I want to do is just change that boundary a little bit. What I want to do is just go through and, put a stair step in here, then I'll drop it, then I'll put a stair step over there. Maybe I'll do it as 2 sections. Now, as you're doing this, like 2 or 3 steps is fine. You don't need to kind of follow the slope precisely. Your construction folks would actually never probably kill you if you went through and tried to follow it precisely. Think about, 4 feet or 8 feet and drop it. There's going to be some logical increment. You don't want to do this every half inch. You want to kind of, it's going to have some big old chunks, because all we're really trying to do is give ourselves more wood frame wall to give ourselves some more architectural freedom. Okay, so if I wanted to break this up, I can grab some boundary lines. I'll just start over here. I want to always stay above the earth. That's what I'm doing up here. I'm just going to stay in above the earth. Yeah, you could stay a couple inches. I like to stay a couple feet. Yes?
Yeah, I was just going to ask if there's any kind of regulation about how far above the earth
the code says you're supposed to be at least 4 inches up. Okay, just give them the fact rolling on down the hill and like kind of stacking up. I'd keep it a couple feet up just to kind of give yourself a little like clearance. So I'm going to stretch this out, maybe 16 feet, something like that. Just some nice even increment. Then I'm going to go drop it on down. And again, drop down some nice even increments. Your construction folks will like you better if you go through and kind of come to nice whole increments. Maybe 2 feet there. That's about as complicated as I'm going to get. So all I've done is I've drawn a new boundary. Firstly, I'm trying to make that stair step over here. And as I'm drawing a boundary, my boundary rules apply, so I got some excess here that I don't really want. I really want just this lower part. So I'm going to clean up that upper part. Just going to get rid of some of that so that the wall is only within the boundary. And I'll do that by doing some trimming. Pop, pop. I'll click on the sides I want to keep. And then I can finally just remove that line at the top. So that's a nice clean boundary. I hope I'm doing it in 3D. Is that okay? You can do it in elevation too. But we've done a pretty good job of aligning these. So that's going to be the concrete part. That's the part I'm going to want to keep as the concrete. Finish that up. You can sort of see where the boundary is right now. Now what I got to do is actually just do the inverse. I'm going to grab the upper wall and just chop off the bottom of it so that it matches the boundary I put on the lower portion. So I'll come up here again, I'll grab that one. I'll say edit its profile. And we're going to draw that same sort of shape. Here's kind of a cool thing. One of the nice things about building modeling is whenever you're going through and you have an edge to work with, as opposed to just drawing the line, you can snap to that edge. And that's a good thing to do, because that way, if one of the edges moves, you can get them to move together and lock them. So I could go through and just draw this. I could come through and choose that guy right there and just start drawing and trace that line. But an even more powerful way, and again, you don't have to do this, but it's sort of a nice trick to sort of get used to doing. Zoom in on there even closer. Is choose the pick tool and just pick that surface. And when you pick the surface, see you get this little locking guy? That says that if anything about that other edge changes, move me with you. Okay, and that's nice, because then it'll never get separated. If it turns out you need to move the concrete or move the wood, either way, the two things will always stay joined together. So I'll say, I'll take that. I'll lock that right in there. I can do the same thing over here. I'll pick on that surface and lock it. Pick on that surface and lock it. And again, you don't have to be doing all this locking. It's just kind of, it builds stronger models in the long run. So it's nice form. Okay. Now, this lower portion, or this upper portion we want to keep, it's still a little messy in here too. We got to kind of clean up the edges of the boundary here. So we're going to use that same trim tool. We're going to just make a single boundary by grabbing the trim tool. Saying I want to keep that side. Keep that side. And I'll get rid of that piece. Okay, so far so good. I'll finish that piece right there. Now after all that, you look and say, what? Okay. Revit happens to be so incredibly smart that it's overthinking it for you. It says, well, if you're going to have these two pieces of concrete and they just line up perfectly, let me just heal that for you and make it one big old piece together. Okay. The good news is, although it's showing you it this way, it really does understand those are two different pieces. And what you got to do is just choose one or the other. Let me see if I can get the top. Okay, there it is. Now I'll change it to wood. Okay, and now we got that stacked wall appearance. Okay. So again, what we're doing in here, the big thing I want you to know for the assignment is this: if you got wall that's going under the earth, make sure it's concrete. If you want to have tall concrete walls, that's okay. I'm okay with that. But if you want to sort of give yourself a little more architectural flexibility, you can go through and stagger the walls. And this is actually sort of a really common type of hillside construction. We do that an awful lot. We kind of stack them down. The other reason we do this, it's partly by giving ourselves architectural flexibility. The other thing is this actually saves money because concrete is a lot more expensive per square foot of wall than building a wood frame wall. So it's done as a way of economizing. It's making sure you're only using concrete where you need it. Okay, sort of making sense? Okay, once you got this, you can go ahead and start popping those windows in. Well, that's hardly worth the trouble right there. The reason for putting this one, actually that one's sort of conflicting with like one of the interior walls. That's what it was complaining about there. The reason I did this, of course, was that I wanted to go through and put in some nice tall window. So since I did that, let's make it worth our while. But it's something that we actually needed to go through and stagger it on down. Let's do this. Let's go ahead and pause for about 5 minutes. Okay, so if you need, go take a bio break, grab some soda, whatever you want, come on back. And when you come on back, we're going to talk about, okay, we've got this whole issue going with the walls. I think we'll answer some questions about that. We're going to talk about that floor that's going in here, and the floor at the bottom, which has to do something a little bit special because we got earth running through our house. And we need to get a little more mileage out of that floor. Okay, so come on back in 5, we'll talk about that.